Hey y'all, welcome to Faith and Flourish. I'm Sherelle Beverly. It is so good to see y'all. I haven't been on here in a while because I felt like God was telling me to go and write, right? Write the book, right? It wasn't quite exactly how I thought it was going to be, but I have been writing, all right? So, and I've been posting a lot on social media. I'm now, like, I was always on Facebook and Instagram, so I've been posting on both of my Faith and Flourish Instagram and my regular Sherelle Beverly Instagram, and I just now added Twitter. So I'm like, why all of the platforms? YouTube. Anyways, but that's what God told me to do, and it's crazy. So what I want to talk about today is just basically faith, like faith in the journey. I really do feel that God has me here not because I have everything together. He does not have me here because, I'm doing any better than anybody else, because I'm probably not, as far as my circumstances are concerned. But where I am very wealthy at is my faith, right? My faith is my currency. Some people, their job is their currency, right? Their money, right? That's their regular currency, right? They expect for them to be able to provide for themselves. But I come to my Father, my Heavenly Father, as if He is the creator of all things, as if all things are in His hands. And so I come to Him as like a child, right? Like a child. And that's what's crazy is a lot of men, they don't understand that, like, that I've dated, because I used to be a big girl. So I think when men used to approach me, I think they used to think that I had low self-esteem, right? Because, I know they play on big girls, like you got low self-esteem. But I was not that big girl. I was the big girl that knew who I was. I knew I wanted to lose weight, but I was comfortable in my skin. I was cute. I was always cute. And I always had a shape and a little small waist, all right? You know what I'm saying? Even as a big girl, I was like how I am now, but just wider, all right? So, so I always had that. And so I always had confidence because I had an amazing earthly father, all right? And that's, if you on my Facebook or whatever, you see me posting that. Like, he was amazing. Like, he called me stuff like, Sherelle, you're my greatest accomplishment. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're, like, all the things that, like, a lot of my wisdom from early on came from my father. You know what I'm saying? So never at any point in my life was I really desperate for a relationship. I never really was that girl. I saw my mom. My mom, she kept going from one man to man after man, you know what I'm saying? But I noticed that she depended on men a lot, financially and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, no deal, all right? And I saw the way that my grandmother used to submit to my papa, and my papa would complain about the food and stuff like that. Rest in peace, papa, I love you. But, he would complain about the food. I'm like, and just complain about little stuff after my grandma worked like he did and come home and she cooking and cleaning and doing everything. I'm like, that don't seem fair. That thing don't seem right. And I told my grandma, I said, I wouldn't sit here and take it. I said, I don't want that type of marriage. And so for a long time, y'all, ever since I was in high school, you know what I'm saying, I was not focused on relationships. At one point, I'll be even more transparent. Y'all know about my promiscuous past. I used to be a sex addict, all right? I wasn't violated, but I got exposed to porn at a really young age. So I was already, like, masturbating, buying sex toys before I think I had sex. So, you know what I'm saying? Crazy. I had sex, like, when I was 15, about to turn 16. So, anyways, what was I saying? I basically didn't want, to marriage, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to focus on my career. I always had, like, a big calling on the inside of me, and I knew I wanted to help people. I didn't know what it was, but I looked around, I saw all the black people. I'm like, okay, one thing I know is about black people, this is just I was like, okay, I noticed that ain't nobody got credit, and credit seemed like the thing to do, so I knew to have good credit. So I always kept good credit, right? My credit was excellent up until I met white boy, right? Like, and but I had excellent credit because I built my credit up because I knew that was something. I didn't know everything about it, but I knew that, hey, this is what you want to do. I also recognized that, hey, it seemed like the more successful people go to college, and my uncle is a surgeon, and so I wanted to be a doctor, kind of like him. And so so I knew that success. My dad's side of the family, actually, they are very educated. You know what I'm saying? My mom's side of the family, not really. So, so I saw that part from my dad's side of the family, and so I was like, okay, I know I need to do this. So that's what I was focused on. I've always been a goal-oriented person. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. Like, I remember times when I'm like, okay, I want a relationship, like when I was younger, but it was an urge, but I was still more excited about my career, about my purpose. I've always had this longing in me that I had a big purpose. You know what I'm saying? And my dad made it even, boosted up even more. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you what my dad did. My dad said, when you were younger, the Roots movie, and he put the baby up. The girl was a girl, I can't remember, was a girl, right? And he was like, behold, what? The only thing greater than yourself. My dad did that to me, y'all. That's how my dad is, all right? I am definitely my dad's child. He is one of the smartest, wisest, dopest men I know. So I had an amazing father. A lot of my intellect comes from my dad, just the way I process things. And I also learned to process things a little different than a lot of girls, because see, with my mom, me and my mom had kind of a little funny relationship, I think there was a little bit of jealousy with my mom, and how she never came in between our relationship. My dad, she let my dad. I was a daddy's girl, so I would always love when my dad picked me up and stuff like that. So she never stopped any of that. But it was a little bit of bitterness in her. I could tell, because I was the only child. Yes, I was the smartest. You know what I'm saying? The one that I guess she felt like she didn't need to take care of that much. So I felt like I raised myself a lot. Because I lived with her. So and she would call me out of my name, you little wench, a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But even when I was talking to my sister's like, yeah, she only used to call you that. She never used to call nobody else that. And she definitely didn't do it to the boys. It was definitely a difference between how she treated me and my sister and I, and then my brothers. She really, she would leave us, the girls, at home, with my grandma, and while she'll take the boys with her. And when I asked about it later, she was like, well, I was going over men's house, so so I didn't want y'all to get, I guess, violated, because I think she had been raped or something like that. So I was like, okay. But at the end of the day, she still did a lot of favoritism toward boys. I think it's just natural. For me, I want a boy, right? And so I can see that favoritism a woman will give to their son, right? As a man gives to his daughter, kind of like how my dad, I'm my dad's, ain't nobody, ain't no woman. My dad ain't never been married, and even if he married, ain't nobody still gonna ever come past me, right? I'm his number one. He's Team Beverly all day, all right? And it's so funny is I didn't used to have my dad's last name. My mom named me, long story, my sister's dad's last name, and my dad was like, no deal. So I actually used to be Sherelle Scott up until 7th grade. Anyways, so, but Sherelle Beverly got my dad's last name now. But also about men or whatever, men just, I never clicked it with men that were my age, in school. My first was I'm 15 about to be 16. My first, he was about 22, right? Everybody I dated really was older than me, you know what I'm saying, out of school. I know that's not what people like to talk about, but that was a reality in the country. That was normal. And the way that I'm always older, even all the guys that I've even dated, pretty much all of them have been 10 years older than me. I've tried to date guys that were younger, and it just don't work out. They're too immature. Guys really do mature a whole lot. It takes them a few extra years, you know what I'm saying? And then the guys my age, they were okay around the time I started getting in the 30s, right? But under 30, they are still wild and ain't, you know what I'm saying? Not saying they bad, but they just not on that level that I'm trying to be on. So, and also about men or whatever, when I was growing up, I really, at one point, I thought I was gay. I used to look at, I used to be am I gay? I used to kind of be attracted to girls or something like that. So, a little bit more than I don't know, I guess I was more comfortable around, I don't know what it was, but I used to say that I didn't mind trying you know, to be with a girl, which I did try one. I was like, oh, girl, you're strictly straight. I'm not gay. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, what I guess what I'm trying to recognize is, you know, you never know what comes on. Those are all lustful spirits. You get what I'm saying? See, the spirit of lust already entered when I was younger with that porn. That's all it did, was introduce that lust, that spirit. You know what I'm saying? That I continue to, you know, that I didn't know it was a spirit. You don't know what it is. You just think that, oh, well, I got a high sex drive. I got just, you know what I'm saying? I just want sex. Well, no. You got a spirit of lust. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people might have spirits of anxiety and fear and depression and, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And lust is also a thing, too. And so anyways, men, I used to say, first off, I know I ain't gonna depend on them. So that's the reason why I always had my own. Still to this day, no man has ever taken care of me, like, for real. I have been the one who has really blessed every single one of them that I've dealt with, you know, in some type of way, because I always had my own. And it wasn't that I guess, and I know this sounds bad, but I would say that I didn't have that many standards. As long as you could, like, hold, you know, like, our minds were similar, like, you had a similar mind to me, like, we vibing and stuff like that. I could talk to anybody, but you had to have a certain, like, you know, level of intellectual capacity to, like, stimulate my mind a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I could tell if you didn't, right? And so, you know, so that's what I really looked for. I wasn't even really attracted to, you know, it didn't even matter. Like, I dated big guys, small guys, short guys, you know, like, light skin. I didn't want white. I just wanted all black, though. But you know what I'm saying? And then I stopped messing with African American guys because I noticed that they couldn't treat the women right. African American guys, still to this day. And I started messing with African guys because I was like, okay, at least I know that African guys, with them, they were their culture just believes in taking care of the woman, right? And so whenever you would go out, you don't have to worry about paying for anything. If they're sleeping with you, the least that they'll do is make sure you're good and pay for it. You know what I'm saying? That's the least they can do. And if you need something, you ask them, they'll give it to you. And it used to be great sex, right? With all the African guys that I dated. You know what I'm saying? But always just like good vibes or whatever. But the African American men was the ones that had a lot of drama. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, I know that Africans had more than one woman probably or whatever like that, but they were just so sweet, just very gentlemen, just good vibes, you know. And that's what I was looking for at the time, you know, because again, I was focused on my career, I was in school, you know, I wasn't worried about no man. I never was worried about a man, you know. I wanted friends with benefits. So, but I ended up, after high school, I ended up getting in a 6-year relationship, and that, you know, another day. But then after that relationship, because I didn't have sex in that relationship like that, so I was a sex addict in high school. Then I got into a relationship, was faithful for 6 years, and then didn't have sex like in half of it or whatever. So then when I got out, I was like, oh, specifically, I wanted friends with benefits. But I didn't realize that God had already changed that part of me. And it didn't work. It worked for the most part, but what didn't work was a lot of men that I encountered, especially African American ones, they ended up being married. You know what I'm saying? I ended up finding out later, like, some crazy stuff used to go down. But, you know, they would always lie. They would always mislead. And I did meet a lot of them on, like, dating sites or whatever, which now I realize, I guess it was hookup, but I was trying to hook up. I was looking for friends with benefit. But dang, why you gonna be on there and you married? You whole married, you know? But that's what they're doing. But anyway, so all of this to say is, I didn't even, for a long time, I didn't even want marriage. For a long time, I didn't even want kids, yet. I had already said when I was, I'm 32, I just turned 32, like, June 23rd. So, I had said, like, when I was in high school, like, you know, graduating high school, I was like, I don't want kids until I'm about 30, because I was thinking about, you know, school. I wanted to go to medical school, like, how long that was going to take. And I was like, okay, I want to enjoy my life a little bit, so at least, you know, my 30s, early 30s or whatever, then I'm okay, you know, with having kids. And look, I kind of prophesied over my life, and here I am, and I'm 30. I haven't had kids yet, but this is kind of what I set for my life, so it's not a complete disappointment, you know. And I realized that everything I said that I wanted in life, I really have achieved it. Again, used to be 320 pounds, now I'm about 145 pounds. I lost my weight. I used to have crooked teeth. I wanted my teeth straightened. I got my braces. I used to wear glasses. And I wanted LASIK, and I got LASIK. You know what I'm saying? Whatever I wanted to improve. Like, for example, if I can't, you know, tone this up, I see a little something coming up. But if I can't tone this part up, you know, once I get into like intense workout, then I'm gonna have to get up under that knife, you know, get my body right. So, you know, because I just always was a go-getter about what I wanted. I knew what I want. I was very articulate with what I wanted in life. I was never one of those girls that's like, oh, you know, no, I knew what I wanted, you know, for at least that period. I couldn't plan all the way down the road, but for the most part, I knew the direction I was going. You know what I'm saying? And nobody helped me figure it out. I figured it all out on my own, which is why I became an atheist, because I felt like I was like, why would I believe in a God just because everybody say believe in a God? No. And I used to ask people, well, how is he real? I mean, tell me, how can you convince me that God is real? And nobody could convince me, because probably the truth is they just believe just because nobody want to go to hell, right? But I'm like, well, if you can't prove it to me, I'm not going to, I was all about science. I'm not going to believe something unless it can be proven to me. I'm just not that person, which is why it's so crazy that God chose someone like me or whatever, because even in my atheist state, I was still faithful, but I was faithful to myself, right? You know what I'm saying? Like I knew that if I could control whatever I need, you know, or so I thought, you know what I'm saying? But I knew the direction. I planned the direction. I feel like ain't nobody. I used to sign my own paperwork in school. You know what I'm saying? Like, since like elementary school, I used to sign. I knew how to write my mom's name. She never checked my grades and stuff like that. Like, she was like, oh, I guess she knew I was making good grades. But still, you know, as a child, you kind of did want that. You know what I'm saying? I wanted my mom to say that she loved me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and show me love. But she didn't show me that. You know, she shows me it now or whatever. But you know, we've had a lot of issues. My mom and I have had a lot of issues, and so I don't know. So I guess I'm saying that because I don't think I really knew how to be a woman. You get what I'm saying? So I saw my dad, and I admired my dad. My dad's my hero still to this day, and no one ever told me how to be a woman. I used to, even like when I think about like, sorry, about to get my period and stuff like that. Like, I remember when I had my, I was like, my mom gave me this pad, just a pad. I was like, what is this? And I had already been reading like teen and 17 magazines. And so I was like, I was like, they be talking about tampons and this. And so I went and brought my own self some tampons, and I was like, I ain't about that life. So anyways, I feel like I've been doing this on my own. I used to buy my own little condoms and stuff like that or whatever. I learned about sex and stuff like that from those magazines. You know what I'm saying? They used to all have them teenagers up in there telling their crazy stories and stuff like that. And so that's how I learned. And you know, that's just the culture. It was normal to have sex. It still is. That's why ain't nobody keeping out. But that's another thing that I want to say. Ain't nobody keeping out with sex, but that's the reason why we ain't married. I am convinced now. I am really convinced that women, we have so much power and influence. God made us to have power and influence. But guess where our power and influence is? Is in our feminine state, right? And we got to understand that men and women are created to be different, created to have different needs and wants. God created us different. And our attraction to each other is so natural, whatever, because if you think about it, if God took the rib out of Adam to create the woman, so he took a piece of Adam. To me, that's what I get when I'm in my alone time, devotion time. God took a piece of Adam. So it's natural to me, you know, for Adam to see, you know, Eve or whatever, like bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Oh, she's a part of me. Even in the Bible, it says like, that the husbands ought to love their wives as they love themselves. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody would harm themselves, right? So that's how a man should be loving his wife, because he knows that loving his wife is loving himself. You know what I'm saying? She's a part of him. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, and even in the word of God, it says that it's not like woman, like after the fall, like women, we're gonna have a desire for your husband. You're gonna have that desire for your husband, right? And men, they were told to go and create, right? Be fruitful and multiply. So you gotta realize that men, everybody's so mad at men cheating or whatever, but you gotta realize they were created to multiply. So men have, I know women, you know, we're like, we need sex, but we don't need it as much as men need it. You get what I'm saying? Like, they really God created them with their stuff that thinks on its own, right? And so it's natural for them to want, you know, women and want sex. And see, the issue is there's too many loose women out here. You get what I'm saying? The issue is ain't nobody keeping their legs closed. The issue is the men can have 10 women on, you know what I'm saying? Like, hopefully not that many, whatever, but can have 10 women, and how he gonna choose out of all of them? Because all of them doing the same thing. Either they want his money or whatever, they desperate for love, so they looking for but all of them giving it up some type of way. Ain't nobody holding him accountable. And so what I'm trying to say is, a woman, we have so much influence, but we don't hold that man accountable because we're scared that we don't want to lose him. If he ain't for you, you gonna lose him anyway. You should want to lose him. And that's the problem. We're so busy just randomly picking and dating and whatever like that, instead of going to God, the one that created you, and say, God, where is my mate? But so many of us are focused. We're almost like depressed and lonely because we don't got a man. I ain't never been that part. You know what I'm saying? So I can't really understand that, but that's what I noticed with a lot of women. A lot of women are depressed without a man, or like there's this yearning for them to have a man, almost if having a man means that it completes them. You know, and that was never God's intention for us. We're supposed to be, you know, good on our own, whole on our own. You know what I'm saying? And then come together. But you can't. At the end of the day, if God's word is his word, that means that his word has no gray in it. His word is black and white. So if he said that do not fornicate, that he hates like sexual immortality, adultery, those are all sins, then that's his law. So then that means that if you commit that sin, then the consequence is probably not going to be in your favor. So I just want, if you're listening to this video, I just want you to think about that. Just look over your life and see that every time you lay down and let him get up in you, did that work the way that you want it? Did it work the way that you want? It does every now and then, but not all the time. Not all the time. Most of the time it doesn't. Because at the end of the day, a man was created to have a natural hunt, right? Back in the day, they was like killing animals, you know what I'm saying? And back in the gladiator, I don't know, you know what I'm saying, like the bloody, like how they kill. Men were out here killing other men. So that's the history of what they come from or whatever. So, you know what I'm saying? So they're hunters by nature. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and if you look at them, they like a little bit of a tease. They like somebody that's gonna hold them accountable. And if they don't, then they're not a man. They're still on little boy, grown boy state, and you're gonna want to leave them alone anyways. So I just need us to start valuing ourselves, and then trust that your father, if you got that desire there for a husband, then I feel like God probably is telling you that he wants you to have a husband, but first he wants you to delight in him. If you delight in him, then he'll give you the desires of your heart. He'll give you everything. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, right? His righteousness, his ways, walk in his ways. That's what he says all throughout the Bible. Walk in his ways. Then all other things will be added on to you. So then you'll get a husband. Then you'll get all this. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to learn to do that instead of just all day long, like, even on social media, everybody all day long posting about how men ain't good and how women ain't good and stuff like that. I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't think none of us good, because first off, ain't none of us reflecting the love that God said. God said, forgive them. That's what God said. God said, forgive them. So if you're married and stuff like that, and you're in a relationship or whatever, and y'all still holding on to that offense, the offenses, you know, I know women, I know I was famous for it, right? Like, holding on to offense, right? We cannot let it go. And that's what the enemy does, to like still take. Enemy comes to what? Steal, kill, destroy, right? And so as soon as you give in to them emotions or whatever, and cannot control your emotions, do not have a level of intellectual, emotional intelligence that you can control your emotions and know how to respond and stuff like that, then, you know, you're going to give the devil just room to play how he wants to play in your relationship, with your heart, with your mind, with, you know what I'm saying? Just wreak havoc all up in there. That's what happened to me. You know, and so what I want to say is, you have to guard your heart. Okay, guard my heart. What does that even mean? You know how you guard your heart as a woman? You close your legs. Stop having sex. Stop. You know, I mean, at this point, at first I was like, okay, that's my conviction. I believe that God is using my foolish mistakes and craziness or whatever to help somebody else. If you are tired of man after man that you giving your body to, if your count was anything like mine, it was high, child. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because most of these men, they'll be gone, right? Like, on to the next, right? You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, if your account, you know, if you're just going in the same cycle and it seems like the same type of issue you dealing with this men, you know what I'm saying? Always the same thing. Maybe you should try something a different way. Like, stop doing it the same way you've been doing it. You're not getting no results. You're going to have to change that up. Change your mindset. Try something different. Yes, it's going to take a little bit of control. You know what I'm saying? Self-control. It's going to take some self-control. It's going to take some discipline. But at the end of the day, you disciplined to wake up and go to work, right? You disciplined to get that paycheck, right? Because you want that fruit. That fruit is that money, that paycheck, right? What else? You don't want to really necessarily eat everything in your body, right? Because you want your beach body or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to like be a big girl or gain any more weight, right? So you stay disciplined to that because you want that fruit. You want a decent body. Same thing with relationships. If you want good fruit, meaning that could end in marriage, change your way, right? Because obviously the fruit that is produced from you sinning, because that's all, it's something that is against the word of God, which all of us are doing, all of us has done. That doesn't mean it's right, and that doesn't mean that we're actually killing ourselves along the way. We're spiritually dying, and that's the reason why we had this depression. You don't even realize when you sleep with somebody, you take on their emotions. I remember one guy, like a few guys or whatever, that I had sex with, you know, and I was like, why am I feeling all these feelings of depression? Like, where is it coming from? It's coming from that soul tie. That's exchanges on so many different levels. So whatever they dealing with, whoever they dealing with, they might be dealing with 3, 4, 5 people or whatever. Now you got all of them spirits coming in your body, depositing into your body. You know what I'm saying? And then we get mad. Then we get these really deep soul ties with these baby daddies or whatever that you let drop off, but you ain't never really want them. So it's almost like how I said that I didn't have like much of a standard. Like, we don't really have no standards. We always looking at our preference about how they look and stuff like that, the job they got and stuff like that. None of that stuff matter. None of that stuff matter. Like, if you gonna keep on focus on these material things and stuff like that, I promise, well, I don't think you're gonna get what you want. You know what I'm saying? Because a woman is there to help a man fulfill a need. And a lot of times men cannot like be elevated to the level that God called them to be until they find their wife. Because it says, he that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. That's like extra, like, you know, in addition to whatever has been going on in his life, he gets an extra dose. right? A favor, you know? So that's really when he's elevated. And you know, and if you look at a lot of men, they be kind of confused. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. It takes a woman to come in there and be like, babe, what are you doing? Come on, let's do this. Let's do this. Because I know I did it plenty of times. And I'm like, see, we're different creatures. We just think differently. It's not saying one is better than the other and anything like that. We're just different, right? So, you know, and it's supposed to fit together and come together and be able to like sharpen one another and build on one another. You know what I'm saying? Like help one another. But anyways, but we move too fast. We're cohabitating, moving with each other, having babies, and then 10 years later getting married. It don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? And if it takes them that long, then they likely don't want to marry you. They just married you because I guess, yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess it's time now. Like, but I just challenge us to kill our fleshly urges or whatever to have sex. Just try it, and you're gonna get better results. And at the very least, if you don't end up, you know what I'm saying, then at least you guarded your heart. You protected your heart, right? And so, at least you got that. At least you don't got to go through the detoxing of a heartbreak. Because I'm going to tell you one thing. I ain't about no more heartbreaks. I ain't got time for that. I ain't got time for it. It slows me down. I don't got time for it. I don't got time for the drama. I ain't never been about it. And I ain't about to start being about it now. I can't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, not like that. I just can't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't. So yeah. So that's, you know, I'm sorry for coming in at y'all like that, but that's the whole moral of my story. Is I took my forbidden fruit was sex. So I wrote a little thing on my Facebook or whatever, you know. I was just talking about the forbidden fruit. That was the one thing that God said I couldn't have. But it was something that was just like sweet poison. That's what my girl said. Like sweet poison. And oh, I had to have that forbidden fruit, right? Always something, right? Eve had to have that forbidden fruit too, right? Anyways, and mine was sex. So what's your forbidden fruit? What's the one thing that God said? Because that's why I noticed God will work on us with one thing at a time. He's slowly like moving stuff. You know, he's gentle with us. So he's slowly moving things out of you that aren't producing good fruit, that aren't a part of, you know, who he called you to be. He's slowly, you know, molding you and removing those things out of you or whatever. And so he'll work on one thing at a time, you know, I feel like. And so maybe your conviction isn't sex or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's still his law. So it's not like God's punishing you for it. But see, the thing about like God's law, when he spoke that let it be light and darkness, he's not continuing to speak let it be light and darkness. It's the already law that he already put in place. So it just, whatever you put out into the universe, it comes back to you, right? So at the end of the day, if his law is established and he's saying that fornication is a sin, whatever you put out there, you're going to get consequences of it. You don't know how you're going to get it, but you're going to get the consequences of it. So even if you don't think that you got consequences of it, I guarantee your emotions are probably suffering. You're suffering because the moment that you have sex as a woman, who we're created to be the nurturers, we're not created to have multiple partners. That is not something that is natural, the natural order of how God created us to do. God created us to have a desire for a husband. And most of us can be faithful to that one husband. That's all we want, is that one husband, that family. You know what I'm saying? So if that's your standard, stick to that. If that's your standard, that you want a husband, then you're going to have to carry yourself as such. Another thing that I want to talk about too is like godly men. This is, you know, just talking about like dating. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, you know, I've only been a Christian for 3 years, but it doesn't make sense that everybody like, oh, I want a godly man, I want a godly man. And I understand that. But how many godly men have y'all met? Because I ain't met that many. I ain't met that many that won't trying to have sex and stuff like that. I ain't meet that many. So what I want to say is, what if it ain't even about having a godly man? It's about, because what if you're supposed to be a witness to your husband? Oh, but I'm sorry, you can't witness to your husband if you opening your legs. You know what I'm saying? Then that it gives the enemy, if y'all marriage was destined, now you've given the enemy you know, something, so now he can come in and play, you know what I'm saying, and wreak havoc. Because you sinned, so now he got room to work. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Where maybe if you would have waited, y'all became friends, got to know each other. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't, you know, saved or whatever like that, or maybe he believed in God, but he won't really live in that life, whatever. But he saw this. Look at this virtuous woman. Look at her. She's dope. She feeling herself. She got everything going for herself or whatever. She, you know what I'm saying? She just, you know, she said what she wanted. I mean, you know, if he, oh, this is another thing I learned. Don't say that you're not having sex till marriage. Don't say that. Just say, I'm not ready. Just always don't be ready, right? And then he'll get the picture, I guess. And if he, and you know, and if it's not your husband, then he'll go. And see, that's the thing people are scared about. See, me, I tell God, if this is not for me, take it away. If you don't want me to have this job, close the door. I don't want to go through it. If it ain't for me, I don't want to go through it. And I don't think some of us have gotten to that mentality about our relationships. We're just so like, oh, he cute. As soon as the guy holler at you, you entertaining. Like, why? Why? Is that really something that God, did you go to God? Because what happens is we date them, right? You know what I'm saying? We already date them. We don't ask God about it. And then we end up got stuff, and maybe now you got feelings, and then you want to be married to him and stuff like that. Now you're going to God and ask him to bless something that you didn't bring God in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So I just want us to rethink what we're doing, right? God is not a genie in a bottle. God is God. That means he's our father. So that means that when we do wrong, he's going to punish us, because the punishment is good for us. Because otherwise, if he doesn't, we're going to die a spiritual death. And he loves us. He doesn't want that for us. He wants us to reach the purpose that he designed for each of us to reach. You get what I'm saying? So he doesn't want that. He wants you to reach that. And so that's the reason why he wrote his law, because he knows probably the woman. He knows how, I mean, he knows how he created the woman to be. So he knows it's not good for the woman to be sleeping with this. That's just not who she was created to be. You know what I'm saying? It's just not gonna happen. It's not how. And anyways, and with how prevalent it is, like now, with how these women are, you know, having sex, it's rare for a woman to not have sex, right, with a guy. You know what I'm saying? And men know that. So we're easy. Women, we're easy as I don't know what. You know what I'm saying? What it take? What, a meal or something? That's all you worth, is a couple meals? Anyways, I just want us to get better. I want us to grow. So if I gotta hold us accountable, I'm telling you, like, we gotta do better. So all of this to say, this channel is called Faith and Flourish, right? So I felt God telling me to start this channel, you know, and just talk about, it was right after I found out my ex, you know, I'm not gonna say my ex no more. My best friend was cheating on me, right? You know what I'm saying? I found out about it. Okay, so, and long story short, when he came back into my life, we've known each other for now like 7, 8 years. And so he came back into my life 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, May 2018, right? And March 2018. He said, I get it now, you're my wife, right? That's what he said or whatever. But when I first met him, my best friend, I said, I'm not gonna call my ex because he's my husband. I believe it now. I'm not doubting it, and my faith is gonna stay on that. All right. So I remember when I met him back in 2013, 2014. That was around the time that I was getting over another guy, another friend's benefits, who had been married. I was getting over him or whatever, and had met my best friend. He worked at a hospital or whatever, as a floor tech. I was a medical scribe, working with the doctors or whatever, and he asked me my name, where I was like, sure. He was like, oh, that's my baby mama's name. Anyways, I laughed. It was on after that, right? And so I remember him being in my life, you know, like coming into my life. I was in such a bad place or whatever, trying to heal from the other guy. And I remember at that time, God was like, don't have sex. I remember hearing it. But you know how you hear something, you like, well, I know I need to not have sex because I know I need to heal. You know what I'm saying? I know it ain't good or whatever. So me and my best friend, we already had sex. We had already had sex by that time. Like, I'm like, okay, I already had sex with that. I remember hearing like, no, you need to not have sex. Like, you need to not have sex. So I felt convicted by it. And so I told him, I was like, look, I cannot have sex because I know I need to heal. I got too much going on. And he was cool with it. Like, we always had good conversation, good vibes. And so we could even be in person and be good. And we were good for a while. And, you know, and it was good. I remember him coming to my life, you know, so he was such a light while I was kind of in a dark place when he met me, you know what I'm saying? And so, so when I stopped or whatever, I think I had stopped for like a month, a little bit over a month, something like that. And one day, slipped up. And we had usually used protection, but that day we did not use protection. And I got pregnant, right? So anyways, and I aborted the child, went into a deeper depression. And then he did some things back then that I couldn't understand. I understand it now. Now that I got the history facts behind what was going on back then. You know, now that y'all come together and y'all talk about it. I didn't understand it back then though. So back then he just caused a lot of pain for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't just him. It was my decision. You know what I'm saying? But just how he reacted to, like, you know, it was just a lot of pain. Anyways, so I prayed to God. This is when I first was like really trying to talk to God, and you know, because I was in a deep depression, I had nothing else, no one else to turn to. Like, I felt like my friends had kind of like ran away or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have nobody there to talk to, so I had to turn to God. Sometimes God will get you to a place or whatever, you know. So honestly, I can't necessarily regret my abortion, even though I do regret it, but I can't, because I think that if I hadn't had that abortion, I wouldn't have pursued God the way I needed to. That pain, I couldn't get over it. It still hurts. It still can bring tears, you know what I'm saying? Because I immediately knew it was wrong, and you know, so anyway, so I remember praying to God. I was like, Lord, you need to get me out of this place. You need to get me out. I was in Hampton Roads in Norfolk, Virginia, and so I was like, Lord, I need to get up out here. It's too much pain and drama. And so I was really running from my best friend. I really was, because I had blocked him after that and every step, you know. So once I moved or whatever, and so he did, like, so my cousin called me, he like randomly, like, hey, you want to move to North Carolina with me? You can work for me, you know what I'm saying? I'll pay you whatever match your pay. And so I was like, word. And so anyways, I moved and I was down there in North Carolina. It was just me and my cousin. It's like, and so I was just like in a solitude with God. And so I started growing with God, and I started going to college, working on my master's degree at Liberty University, which is a Christian college, but I wasn't a Christian, right? But you know, even in the master's program, you still had to read, and it kind of was interesting, you know, a little bit of that I read, but that didn't still make me a Christian, you know what I'm saying? But it was interesting, but regardless, I was listening to, you know, gospel music. I was praising the Lord. I was in a good place, and God told me, he was like, I'm gonna send your husband. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt God telling me. I was like, God gonna send my husband. I ain't gotta sit here and look. But then you know how you be like, nah, you get up on that dating site, because I guess you be lonely sometimes. And so I got around, played up, flipped up a couple times. I'm like, nope, going back. Anyways, so toward the end of that, a few months, maybe 6 months before the end of it, my ex started calling back. He was calling back private, right? And anyways, but we talk like normal, and in that time I found out that something in my spirit, I remember complaining to him, because I used to tell him a lot. I was like, I'm so tired of these men, you know, being married. And something in my spirit was like, ask him, is he married? Like, are you married? And he was like, you know, I was like, wait a minute, are you married? And he's like, yeah, actually I am. I was like, what? I thought you was. Anyways, I was so pissed. I went off, and you know, he was so sweet back then. And he was like, you know, he apologized. He let me vent and do all this stuff. So, you know, we remained friends. Just talking on the phone or whatever like that. Then, you know, kind of toward that time, he had started telling me like, hey, I got feelings for you. So I'm like, all right, well, I know God said that, you know what I'm saying? Because we would talk about God. I didn't know he was a Muslim back then. You know what I'm saying? Because we would just talk about God. I won't talk about no Jesus, you know what I'm saying? I talk about God. Like, so we always talked about God, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, I told him, I was like, well, you know, I'm waiting on my husband, so you're gonna have to pursue me or whatever. But he was a workaholic, so then by the time I moved back to Virginia, I'm in Richmond right now, you know, he's still in Hampton Roads 2 to 3 hours, you know, 2.5 hours, something like that. You know, he's working on his business and stuff like that, and so, you know, he's always working. So I was like, well, you need to pursue me. Anyways, it's crazy or whatever, because right when we were like trying to get together, because he had said he had feelings for me, I met the white boy. And what did Sherelle do? She had sex. And then this ended up being a toxic relationship. I just want you to get the pattern of what sex has been doing so far, right? So anyways, so then I remember in that relationship, I called her the name of Jesus, because that was straight warfare, spiritual warfare. That boy had some demons in him, all right? And so I remember calling the name of Jesus or whatever, and God was like, it's okay. He was like, he told me back then, in that when I called on his name, I don't know when the date, month, it was in 2017. I know that was the year, because that was pretty much the main year that I dated a white guy. And so, you know, he said that I'm going to turn this into good. I'm going to use this. This is going to be your platform, domestic violence. Because I was like, how did I even get in this? And that's the thing. I remember being the girl who said, ain't nobody going to have me in no abusive relationship. Don't ever say that you ain't that person. You would never be that person, because it can happen, right? So that gave me, that's why I don't judge nobody that's in a toxic relationship, because I know the type of, you know, manipulation and stuff that goes into it, and it's very toxic. It's so, man, you don't even know you in it until you in it. Like, I don't know. It's just, I think for me, I think it shocked me so much and I was so busy that it was just hard to really even process it. You know what I'm saying? This white boy showed up with his full representative. I'm talking about he was a sweetheart. And I didn't even like white boys. I told him straight up when I met him. I was like, I don't like white boys. But he was such a sweetheart. And then once he revealed his true self, I never saw his representative again. I used to say, like, where is the guy that I met? Where is he? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, it's crazy or whatever. I remember in that relationship thinking about, because I had cut my best friend off. You know, we had kind of started talking, because I remember he even heard me one time when I was arguing with, you know, the white boy or whatever. And, you know, I remember talking to him then, but then he found out I was still talking to, you know, somebody I had talked to, so I stopped talking to him. I was like, yeah, you know, it's kind of wrong for me to be in a relationship and still talking to you, somebody who, you know, that I like, you know what I'm saying? That's cool. And so I didn't talk to him or whatever. And so he ended up getting into a relationship with his ex, right? And, or so this is, you know, how I'm getting it after whatever. But long story short, what I got from it is, it's like, he wouldn't have got back into a relationship. Like, you know what I'm saying? He would have truly pursued a relationship with me if I would have probably been open to it. But I remember him saying, he was like, I can't believe you picked the white guy over me. And I honestly didn't see him like that. I was like, what? Picked him over you? I didn't even think that you were really an option like that. I know you say you had feelings, but I didn't really take him serious. I didn't take him serious because he wasn't the type of guy to sweat somebody. You know what I'm saying? We were very chill. He won't go. So as he's telling me he got feelings, you could, I guess it was a nervous kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? He ain't really know how to really. I knew he was genuine because I'm like, this guy ain't the guy that's gonna say that he got feelings for somebody. So he was just really feeling me. And so anyways, so I remember thinking about him when I was with the white guy. I was like, if I was with my best friend, I bet he wouldn't treat me like this. I used to say that. And it's crazy because when we came back into each other's life, after we got out of this toxic relationship, he thought about me too. You know, he said he thought about me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even when I was in a relationship with the white boy, I started praying for my husband. I was like, I know this white boy is not my husband. I knew God had to get me out of that situation. I couldn't get myself out. God had to get me out. I was like, I knew he wasn't it. So I started praying for my husband. I did. And it's crazy because my best friend said he started praying for his wife. even though he was with his wife, right? The one he married. But that's why I want you to know that just because these people married don't mean that that's who God called them to be with. Facts. Like, that it says in the Bible, man can't separate what God bring together, right? So if that God ain't bring y'all together, y'all brought yourselves together, and now all those soul ties and y'all got kids and stuff like that, that toxicity, you know what I'm saying? And it's just years and years of history and nobody want to ever let go. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, that ain't godly. Godly. God ain't never say that, you know? And so, anyway, so when he came back into my life, March 2018, he said, I get it now. You know, you're my wife. And we both agree at that time. We was like, we know we were both broken. We both said it was toxic relationships. We both were broken. And we were both just very real about where we were. And we was like, we're going to take it slow. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get ourselves together. And then, we're moving toward a relationship, right? You know what I'm saying? Moving toward marriage. But we're going to get ourselves together because we were so broken. But the enemy played on that or whatever. Obviously, I had sex or whatever, so now you got room or whatever to get in there. So these last 2 years have been hard. It has been very toxic for the both of us, you know what I'm saying? Because we use each other to heal off of each other. But it's crazy or whatever because in the beginning when we were just talking about each other, you know, just what we had gotten to know, you know, what he liked about me was like my drive, you know what I'm saying? Everything that I set out to do, like, you know what I'm saying? I did it. Like, that was my drive or whatever. And what I liked about him is, like, you know, his drive, too. Like, you know what I'm saying? I never saw myself being with any of the other guys for real. Because when I thought about my purpose as being something big, right? Well, most of the guys that I met, I had to kind of, like, motivate them to want to more in life, kind of. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to do this with him. He matched me. You know what I'm saying? He matched me really, like, intellectually, even though, you know, he didn't go to college or anything like that, but, you know, but still, like, he understood me. He listened to, like, every word I said. He really was patient with me, because I had started, like, yelling and screaming, like, you know what I'm saying, because I was, you know, I had never been a yeller or screaming like that, you know, but once you learn those patterns in that abusive relationship, you gotta detox from it. And so we were detoxing off each other, and he had, like, really hardened heart toward his kid's mom, right? You know what I'm saying? So, but he, you know, he had love for her or whatever, but it was just so much bitterness from the both of them toward each other. And I used to kind of, like, mediate, like, on his side, like, you know, like, hey, no, you know, like, from her, because I'm still a woman, so that's who I am. I'm never gonna, if I'm supposed to be his wife, whatever, that means that this is my baby mama. So I can't hate on her. I gotta help support her too. That's how I go into it. You know what I'm saying? So I can't have nobody hate on nobody. But he never was that person. He never spoke down on her and nothing like that. You know, he never did that or whatever. And that's what I liked about him. He loved being a father. It was something that was just such a joy. You know, he always wanted to provide, but, you know, he had just a rough history as a black man. You know what I'm saying? Like, the system did its thing on him, and, you know, and he always really had a lot on his shoulders, like, his whole family, like, just expects so much from him or whatever. He really tried to match it all, but, you know, the moments that he felt short, that's really hard for a man to fall short when it comes to providing, especially when everything in them wants to provide, because that's what God made them to do, is providers, is to be a provider. And that's something I also want to talk about, from me, that I think that I did wrong, is because, you know, he had a business or whatever, and, you know, he had contracts, you know, and stuff. It was a cleaning business, and, you know, so he had stuff going on, whatever, and income coming in. It wasn't as big or whatever, so I still was surviving off my credit, right? So by this time when he came back, I had been, like, 2 months, basically my cousin had fired me, right? My cousin had fired me or whatever, so I was surviving off my credit cards, and I felt like God told me that I wasn't supposed to work. And by that time, I couldn't work. I was mentally down, because once work stopped, then I mentally had to deal with the trauma, right? Then you have to deal with it, because now you don't have anything to fill your mind. So now you have to actually deal with it. And I realized I was messed up, and it ended up paralyzing me. You know what I'm saying? So these last 2.5 years now, you know, has really been a journey, a slow day-to-day walk with God, just from me being super anxious and depressed or whatever, not being able to move out of this house, to I remember the days when I walked a little further. I remember the days when I got up and started getting dressed. I remember the days when I started cooking for myself. I remember the days when I started back laughing. I remember the days when I started back dancing. You know what I'm saying? But it was a process. And I think so many people expect for it to happen overnight. But sometimes when you experience that trauma, that healing is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. But if you can think to God and rejoice, and that's one thing I had faith in. I knew I could not get myself out of that depression, stuff like that, but I knew my God could, because he had already been with me in the past. You get what I'm saying? I had already experienced him. I know he got me out of the white boy situation, and then he bring this guy into my best friend into my life, and I'm like, wow, Lord, you really love me? Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I had specifically prayed to God with the white boy. I was like, Lord, I only want to be me and you for about 5 years. Come on, like at least 5 years. I can't be in no other relationships. And then here go my best friend coming in. So it matched what God had already said. God said he will send my husband. And that's how my best friend came in. He said, I get it now. You're my wife. And for the first time when he said that, and he continued to pour out his heart, it was a long conversation. And it's so crazy or whatever, because I was on my way to church or whatever. And so it was an urgent thing or whatever, so I hadn't really been answering my phone, so he didn't think that I was going to answer, but I answered my phone, and, you know, and he was like, hey, you know, I didn't think you were going to even pick up or whatever, but, you know, he was like, I really, you know, want to talk to you about something. I was like, well, I'm about to go in church, you know what I'm saying, so, you know, he was like, well, you know, can you just, you know, call me back, because we had talked for a second, but I was like, yeah, I'm about to go to church. He was like, well, can you call me back? I really want to talk to you about something, and I was like, okay. He was like, no, call me back, like, he was, like, urgent, like, please call me back. I was like, okay. And so anyway, so I went to church where I was like, you know, it was kind of like getting on me at church. I was like, what you got to talk about? I had no clue. I was like, but why do you sound like that? I ain't never heard him sound like that. You know what I'm saying? And so when I got back in the car, I called him or whatever, and he poured out his heart. And for the first time, I felt, for the first time, I really saw him as I felt God wanted me to see him. You know what I'm saying? Because I felt like if I seen him as more than that before then, I would have sabotaged it back then. You get what I'm saying? Like, way more. I would have sabotaged it back then. I could never see anything more than a friend. I used to always tell my cousin that. I was like, I can't see him as more than a friend. Not saying it was anything wrong with him, but it's because we both kept each other in, like, a friendship zone. We ain't try to put no pressure on each other and expect any more out of each other. You know what I'm saying? It was just good. We ain't put no more pressure on each other. Because we knew that he was working on his business, I'm working on my career. You know what I'm saying? Like, we knew what we was at. We both won't worry about no relationships. You know what I'm saying? And so when he said it, like, I had already been walking with God, and I had started to experience God's, like, peace, God's confirmation. So God had, in my walk, God confirms things for me. When he needs me to move a direction, it's like this overwhelming peace that comes over my body, almost like kind of goosebumps, kind of like, you know what I'm saying? But it comes over my whole body, and I know it's God confirming something, right? And the reason why I now know that that is a confirmation is because sometimes your parents or your people, your family will experience similar things. And my dad's like my best friend too. So me talking on the phone to my dad described the feeling that I'm telling you about the confirmation, how God confirms it. You know what I'm saying? My dad was like, oh yeah. I was like, Dad, you experienced that too? And so that let me know that I wasn't crazy. You know what I'm saying? That yes, it is how God confirmed something with me. And so even to this day, the confirmation that God gave me about my best friend being my husband was the strongest that it has ever been, that feeling that came over me. It was the strongest. And I felt God saying yes. This is your husband. But I didn't do the first word that he gave me. The first time when my best friend came in, that when I met him, God told me not to have sex. It was almost like he was warning me, right? Hey, I got something good for you, but you gotta obey what I say. And I couldn't obey it, right? So anyways, throughout these last 2 years, it's really been toxic, and I couldn't understand why it was so toxic, you know. And every time I would run away, the thing is, I run away from arguments quick. I ain't about that life. You know what I'm saying? Especially if I got control of it, because I ain't had control of it with the white boy in my place. But now with me and him, I had like a little more control, so I run away, and I would cut him off quick, all right? I ain't got time. So really, over these last 2.5 years, I rejected him a lot. You know what I'm saying? Once stuff come up, you know what I'm saying? Because he was detoxing off of his ex, and at first he didn't understand that. I think he knew it, but he didn't want to admit to it. But then he would always come back and be like, you know what, I wouldn't even have to say it. You know what I'm saying? He would just talk it all. We would talk it all out, and he would admit things, and he would always get better, right? And he would admit, yeah, and so we talked about a lot of their relationship. We talked about all our relationships, like, for real. And and we talked it out, so we always got better. But I do think that I was damaging the moment, that if I really believe that he's for me and that he's my husband, why every time when it gets tough, why did I always run away? You know what I'm saying? Why didn't I stay and work it out? But see, the thing is, I had to realize I wasn't healed also. So I had to redevelop my emotional intelligence. I used to not react like that, but now whenever something triggered me, because I already had a hurt, I was already hurt and traumatized, you know what I'm saying? Then it just hurt, like you felt, like it just felt horrible, whatever. And so you couldn't control your emotions, and my emotions just was like, and my voice is already high pitched, so it probably just sounded worse or whatever. So anyways, and then it came out once he went to file his divorce, soon, which was shortly after we were together, he was on it, to file it or whatever. But when he went to file it, I saw the paperwork, you know what I'm saying? And it said that, and I asked him, and he was like, I don't even remember, like, during that time. I was like, well, it says right here that you got married, like, literally 5 days after I had my abortion. And so, and that, it hurt. It hurt to know that, because he had already also did some things back then that also hurt when I, around the time of the abortion, you know what I'm saying? So it hurt to find out the truth that I was just like us, you know what I'm saying? Just, even though we were friends with benefits, but he was my friend, so I'm telling him the truth about me, and you think that the men are going to tell you the truth. But that's another thing, women, like, men ain't gonna tell you that they sleep with multiple women, but you need to just assume off the bat that they sleep with multiple women. That's why you don't want to be added to that list. You don't want to be added to that list. You be the difference. Be the difference. You be set apart. All right. God said you need to be set apart. Right. You a wife. You know what I'm saying? Let them other girls feel that spot, that temporary moment. Let them feel that. You don't feel that. You know what I'm saying? You be set apart, and your husband will come to you. I really do believe that. And so, anyways, but every time I would run away, I'd be like, this ain't my husband, stuff like that. Not understanding that a lot of the way that the devil was playing in my relationship, it was the sin that I allowed to come in. I shouldn't have slept with him. You know what I'm saying? I already wasn't healed. God probably knew like, think about it. If we both would have came back into each other's life, just been each other's best friends in the past, didn't sleep, I held them accountable, of course he gonna want to sleep with me, but you know what I'm saying, but I'm like, okay, I be the one who controlled that, like, no. And maybe he would have slept with somebody, but he would have never told me, you get what I'm saying? I would have never felt that, and it would have never bothered me, probably because I wasn't sleeping with him. I had guarded my heart, you get what I'm saying? But now, the moment that I'm sleeping with him, and he already said I'm his wife, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, now, you just on a whole different emotional thing. Now you find out you was just some random girl that he just had sex with. You know what I mean? Like, and it took you on one of the worst depression of your life, but it just was another day for him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just hurt. And so I couldn't let that offense go. I couldn't let it go. Like I said, the enemy played his hand in there. When I tell you, he played his hand, and it was a lot of toxic things, but we would always come back, we would always be forgiving of one another. He was patient with me, and I was patient with him, but it seemed like it got worse, especially this year. I don't really know what happened that it got, because even, like, the girl that he's talking to, you know what I'm saying, like, that didn't start until, like the end of last year. That's when I seen it on the phone records or whatever. But I know for sure we were together. You know what I'm saying? So I know he cheated sexually too. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, in addition to emotional, probably with multiple women. So, and I had never seen the side that I seen of him when I found out he was cheating. When I added 2 and 2 together, put everything together, because I never searched for anything. That's one thing about me. I don't search. I ain't checking your phone. I ain't doing nothing. If I say I trust you, I trust you. right? But at the end of the day, if you do have some dirt, the light will always expose the darkness, honey. It's going to always expose it. And I knew I was in God's hands, so it would expose it. And God exposed it. You know what I'm saying? God exposed it. And the moment that I found out, it's almost like he just gave up. He was just like, well, F it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was unapologetic about it. He said some hurtful things. I ain't never seen that side like that. When I tell you, that's why I put on my pride comes before the fall, man. I tell you, he was so prideful, like arrogant. He was like, I'm like he ain't apologizing like about anything he said. Like he said, like he said some hurtful stuff, and it was abusive. It was exactly what it was. It was abusive. Because that's what happens, you know, like with that rejection, whatever. So they want to tear you down because they already feel like crap or whatever. So they want to tear you down. So I guess maybe you don't be with nobody else, or you know, your self-esteem ain't gonna be that good to feel like you can get anybody else, right? But you know, I didn't let that, you know, happen to me. But after I cut him off this last time, I was like, okay, so this must not be it. And God was like, Sherelle, how many times am I have to confirm it for you? How many times? As he did every time. And even after every time when I would cut him off, God would tell me to forgive him after every time. And so even this time, I told him, I was like, I forgive you. I forgive you. You know what I'm saying? And I said that I told him straight up, I was like, you know, I miss my best friend. You know, I miss, you know, like my best friend. Because at the end of the day, like now just me not talking to you. Because like basically our breakup just really was like a long 2-month process where I basically would just shut it down. Like I cut it, you know what I'm saying? I had to block him and stuff like that. And he, you know, he would call. And so now when I'm reaching out, now he blocked me. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm like, you know what I'm saying? So now he shut me off. But I had did that so many times to him. So, you know, I can't even be mad about it. But you know, but I was like, at the end of the day, I know we both knew that me having sex was really messing up my emotions. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knew it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I submitted to him just because I wanted to please him. But at the end of the day, I didn't really want it. Like, I wanted to please God. But because I couldn't resist and I still submitted to him, that means that I made him my God. If God told me not to do this, and God is supposed to be my God, but I listen to him, then he's my God. You know what I'm saying? So I had to repent for that, and I had to turn around, whatever. But God's grace is sufficient, and God said, no, it is. But see, by this time or whatever, because the enemy is just wreaking havoc on him, because he don't have a relationship with Jesus, you know? And so, what if I could have witnessed to him? What if he could have seen my growth, right? If I wouldn't have had sex with him, he could have seen my growth, and maybe, you know, it could have turned out better. You know, we would have been healed. We would just been ready. We would have prepared ourselves for marriage. You know, we would have been happier. We would just, you know, it would have been a whole lot lighthearted, which is what we needed to heal. You know, but it wasn't like that. And so over these last few months this year, I could see his heart hardening toward me. And it was really like hurtful, because I'm like, man, like this guy, I know he was for, you know what I'm saying? I know he's for me, you know. And I remember him even saying, he was like, Sherelle, I just love how you, like, you know, like, I love how you love me, you know, because he even said that, like, he said that I remind him a lot of his mother, which he got a few little issues with his mom, but, you know, because he's, like, kind of daddy's boy, kind of, like, you know, his dad's, like, his hero, but he said I remind him of his mom, and when he told me that, I was like, it's so funny, because you remind me of my dad, and he does. And when I think about all the guys that I dated that I like something about, he kind of like makes up all that in him. And the way I even move, like, y'all, even I remember us dancing for the first time at this like reggae show or something like that, right? And I remember seeing him dance with his you know, little girl and sing. They be making up songs and stuff like that. And I used to think it was so cute, because it reminded me of how me and my dad used to do. My dad used to sing songs to me, and we used to sing and just, you know, act stupid or whatever. And that's what he does with his like little girls or whatever. And that turned me on so much, you know what I'm saying? Just him, the father that he is, you know what I'm saying? That he wants, you know, that I know he could be even better, but, you know, like, life happens, and you try to do the best you can or whatever, but around them, he, like, they love him. Oh my gosh, you can tell they daddy's girls for real. But yeah, so, you know, it's just so many things, like, my dad's favorite line, and when I was growing up, he used to say, "Sky's the limit," right? My best friend got on his back, "Sky's the limit." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so many, like, similarities, like, so many confirmations. And that's like God was like, no, he was always your husband back then. I sent him back then, but you couldn't listen. And you kept saying that you kept having sex. And every time you had sex, didn't something always, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is like me and God's conversation. Like, something always happened. And so, you know, and so I don't know what would have happened if it would have happened, but it may have turned out better. I can't say anything now, whatever. All I can do is just put everything in God's hands, because I can see that his heart really is hardened toward me, like really hardened toward me. But it's not a natural harden. It's not who he is. Who he is, because I also, you gotta realize, I know how damaged he was coming out of that relationship when he got back with his ex or whatever. I could see the difference because I knew who he was. He had become my best friend over the years, so I knew who he was, and I could see the difference. I told him I could see the difference, and he could also see the difference between me, because he knew I wouldn't have responded the way I did. You know what I'm saying? So we both knew that each other were genuinely, like, not the same, right? But anyways, but yeah, so he had said, "I love how you love me," or whatever, and I love how, like, because his heart had been so hardened toward his ex, kind of, you know, bitter and stuff like that. He was like, "I love how you like you soften my heart up to love," and stuff like that. And so anyways, I remember him saying that, you know, to me or whatever. But now I'm looking like, dang, his heart is all the way hard to me. But I've been praying or whatever, and I've been praying. I see little things or whatever. I told him I forgive him or whatever. You know, and you know, he knows how to. He has a great poker face. Great poker face. So, you know, I it's nothing I can do. It's nothing I can do or whatever. I do believe that he's my husband. Now, you know, like I said, I ain't the person to talk about the whole Christianity being unequally yoked or whatever like that, because the truth is, I came from being an atheist, like, you know, and I didn't find out that he was a Muslim until he came back into my life, because I was like, oh, you was a Muslim? That's when now I'm getting into Jesus, you know what I'm saying? So, and so also as I grew, it's crazy or whatever, because you would think that in a relationship and stuff like that, you would think that I would get away from God, but my relationship with my best friend made me get closer to God. So that's also another sign. Like, I'm like, this guy is making me get closer to God. And he always supported my relationship with God. You know what I'm saying? He never, like, really was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? He never, like, tried to, like, tell me like that has to, I mean, you know, of course he's going to shoot a shot or whatever, but he never, like, forced it. You know what I'm saying? It was just me. I just would give in. You know what I'm saying? Just because, like, I probably wanted it too. You know what I'm saying? Like, anyways. So, what I was going to say. Get back on my list. Oh, and so it's just a lot of things that I wish I would have did. I wish I would let some of that fence go, because now once I exit out and had, you know, not been talking to him for a couple months like that or whatever, I was able to think, I was like, man, I started to see him again, which I think I stopped seeing him, and I was like, he really has been there for you, Sherelle. Like, he's been there right with you. He's been the person who's been cheering you on, calling stuff out of you that you ain't know was in yourself, building your self-esteem back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like when it comes to like what I'm capable of doing, you know, because I had to rebuild that up. You know, just like I said, he listens to every word I say. I never see anybody that listens to every word I say besides like my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, but because any other man, I find myself like leaning forward to try to talk to the man because they don't get everything that you're trying to say, or they don't listen or whatever. But that wasn't him. He listened to every word I said, and so, you know, he was my best friend. I told him everything. There's nothing that he don't know about me, you know, and so I wish I would have focused on the positive. I wish I would have gave him more, a little more grace, you know what I'm saying? Like, even during this last time, I shouldn't have responded the way I did, you know what I'm saying? I should have been more open to talking it out. I just straight was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? I was just, oh, okay, I'm done now, definitely, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like, I don't know, and I think that we probably could have talked it out, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of times too, like, because I was getting closer to God, so the light in me was like irritating the darkness in him too. You get what I'm saying? Not saying that he said, you know, he never said anything like, don't get close to God. He always supported my relationship with God. But that's evil spirits in him. You know what I'm saying? Like, the light in me would kind of upset that, right? And so, and I talked a lot of word, whatever. You gotta realize, like, there's a lot of similarities in, like, you know, the Islamic faith or whatever, because it's still Abrahamic, you know, background. Like, Abraham is still the father of it all, father of the, you know, Jewish faith and Muslim faith and Christianity, right? But obviously, you know, Jesus is the fulfillment of those laws, you know. So a lot of the laws, you know, it's still the same principles, you know what I'm saying? So we came together on that. We understood, and so he never denied that the adultery, the fornication, he never denied that that was good. He knew it was a sin, you know what I'm saying? But we know a lot of things is a sin. We know a lot of things ain't good for us, and we still do it. So, so yeah, I just wish that I would have, you know, but, you know, at the end of the day, I guess everything happened the way it was supposed to happen, because I don't know what God is going to produce out of this. But one thing, the whole point of this video, what I wanted to say is, what I'm not going to do is, I'm going to stop second guessing what I know God told me. And God told me that my best friend is my husband. And so the situation right now looks as if that is not going to happen, right? I sound like a fool. I know it. But what better way to show that my faith is real, my faith in God is real, that my God is faithful to do all that he promised? You know what I'm saying? To get let me into that promised land that he's promised for me or whatever. Like, he's faithful, and I believe in him. Even when I can't see it, I believe in him. And